Since its debut in 2016, Stardew Valley has become more than just a popular farming simulator. It's evolved into a cultural phenomenon. Nearly a decade later, it remains a dominant force in the gaming community, recently surpassing Portal 2 as the highest-rated game on Steam and attracting record-breaking player numbers. Yet while Stardew Valley continues to thrive, the broader landscape of indie gaming faces significant challenges, and for many, it feels like the end of a golden era. How Stardew Valley changed the indie scene forever. Stardew Valley wasn't the first indie breakout, but it helped redefine what solo-developed games could achieve. It arrived on Steam via the now-defunct Greenlight program, which relied on user voting to surface promising indie titles. It stood out with its nostalgic art style, deep mechanics, and heartfelt story, and it didn't take long for it to become one of the best-selling indie games of all time. When Greenlight was replaced by Steam Direct in 2017, the barriers to publishing games dropped dramatically. While this democratized access to the marketplace, it also flooded Steam with thousands of new titles each year. In 2024 alone, more than 8,000 indie games launched on Steam, a number that's already climbing in 2025. With so many releases fighting for visibility, even standout titles risk being buried in the noise. Worsening the situation is the decline of crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which were once lifelines for indie creators. High-profile failures and growing consumer skepticism have made it harder for small studios to secure funding through traditional crowdfunding routes. Similarly, showcases that once gave indies a chance to shine, like PX, E3, and Indie Megabooth, have become less accessible due to financial and logistical hurdles. Players keep returning to Stardew Valley, and that's a problem for new games. Despite being nearly a decade old, Stardew Valley reached its highest-ever concurrent player count in July 2024, with over 157,000 players online in a single day. This surge was largely driven by the long-anticipated 1.6 update, which added substantial content and quality-of-life improvements. The game's strong modding community only adds to its replayability, allowing players to constantly refresh their experience without ever leaving the game behind. The continued popularity of Stardew Valley poses a unique challenge. Newer indie games aren't just competing with each other, they're also competing with beloved mainstays that keep growing. For many players, Stardew Valley already delivers everything they want from an indie experience, and it's still getting updated for free. That makes it even more difficult for other cozy sims or narrative-driven games to get noticed. Indie games aren't dying, they're just evolving. Still, to declare the indie genre dead would be far from accurate. In recent years, a number of indie titles have broken through the clutter. Among Us, originally launched in 2018, exploded in popularity during the pandemic and helped revive the social deduction genre. More recently, the roguelite poker game Balatro became a surprise hit in 2024, selling over 5 million copies and receiving numerous accolades. Looking ahead, there's still reason for optimism. ConcernedApe's next game, Haunted Chocolatier, is one of the most anticipated indie releases in years. Upcoming games like Witchbrook, Hades 2, and Fields of Mystria have already built considerable fanbases, particularly in early access. While the path to success is steeper than it once was, the potential for breakout hits remains very real. A new chapter for indie gaming. The indie space today is no longer the wild frontier it was in the early 2010s. It's more crowded, more commercialized, and more competitive, but it's also more creative than ever. The tools available to developers are more powerful, distribution is more streamlined, and players are still hungry for unique, heartfelt experiences. Stardew Valley may represent the high-water mark for solo indie game success, and it's likely we'll never see a phenomenon quite like it again. But that doesn't mean the story of indie gaming is over. It's just entering a new phase, one shaped not by massive hits alone, but by persistent innovation, community support, and the quiet brilliance of creators who keep pushing the medium forward, even when the spotlight fades.